Supreme Magus, Chapter 7 A Baby's Day. Derek's first days as a baby were peaceful, but far from boring. He had no responsibilities. All he had to do was eat, sleep, poop, and the occasional baby noise or finger grabbing routine. That left him with all the time he needed to think about his future. On Earth, it was no mystery that kids had a greater potential for learning than adults. And since his family seemed human, or at least human like, he could hope for that to be true in this dimension. From what he could see, his body was no different from an earthborn baby. He could hear his heartbeat, his chest inflating and deflating while breathing. Even the reproductive apparatus was the same. The same could be said for his new family. If it wasn't for the existence of magic, he would have simply thought to have traveled through time. But things clearly weren't that simple. Derek quickly dismissed all the "what race I am now" hypothesis as overthinking. One of the advantages of being a baby was that ignorance was perfectly fine. When the time came, someone would teach him. He determined that he had two priorities. Number one, learn their language. All babies are supposed to learn their native language. And he had only so much time before being considered a retard. So he could not slack off. Number two, he had somehow to figure out magic, or at least its foundations. And that also had a deadline, since his learning potential was at its peak only until his brain stopped growing. After that, he would not be different from anyone else with the same talent and disposition for magic. So, he set magic as his first priority. Being considered a slow learner was much better than being weak for life and forced to take another spin at reincarnation. Derek spent his first day in the new world in bed, together with his mother, while his father would sleep and rest in the boys' room. Whenever someone talked to him, he paid close attention, trying to figure out common words or patterns. The rest of the time, when he was not eating or his cloth diaper being changed, he would try to cast one of the three spells he knew: Ekidu, Venire Lakat, and Venire Ratu. Every attempt was a failure. He could not even feel a iota of power inside him. Comparing what he saw from what he knew from Earth's dungeons and looting, those spells had clearly a verbal and somatic component. But that couldn't be all, or at least he hoped so. Otherwise, until he was able to talk, his efforts would have been wasted. Failure after failure, his anxiety grew stronger. Fear of the unknown and of tomorrow started to build up. Also, getting used to poop and wet himself wasn't a pleasant feeling either. Thankfully, his mother showered him up with nothing but love and affection, making his day not a total loss. Despite his bias about mothers, due to his previous life, Elena managed to make him feel loved and protected. That wasn't half bad at all. The final outcome of his first day was zero progress in magic, no progress with language. But his mother seemed to be a good parent, and he finally learned his new name, Lit. The second day turned his world upside down. Elena, showing the strength of a wild ox, decided she was sick of resting and got up and helped doing the daily chores. Lid had the opportunity to see her full figure. Despite giving birth the previous day, she was a good-looking woman in her early 20s. She was definitely well endowed in all the right places, with a fit body honed through hard work. Her long hair was of a beautiful light brown color with shades of red all over it. The light of the candle made it look like there were flames dancing within. Seeing Mother with her hair down in a sunny day must be quite a sight to behold, Derek thought. Maybe it was because Lid was still a baby, maybe because of the mother-son bonding, but Lid felt deeply proud of her. He also discovered that she seemed not to use bra or underpants. Once dressed, she wrapped up Lid, making it impossible for him to move. Then Elena placed him into her sash, using it like a baby cradle, so that she could easily hold him with only one arm and minimum exertion. She walked out of the small bedroom and found her older daughter, Eliza, messing with the fireplace. "What in the great mother's name do you think you're doing, Lily? The sun is not even out. You should be sleeping. You know you're not allowed to mess with fire," she said with a hiss, trying not to wake up the house. "I'm sorry, Mom. I just wanted to make you all a surprise. Let you wake up in a warm house and with breakfast ready." Elisa's face showed only sincere concern. "There's no need to worry, silly bee. Your mommy is a pro with kids," Elena said while ruffling her hair. Eliza, together with her twin brother, were the eldest children. She was 8 years old, and her blonde hair with shades of black was the reason for her moniker. Elena shooed her away from the fireplace with a flick of finger and Firo lighted the fire. "Thanks heavens," Lit rejoiced. "Once again I had that weird feeling when discovering a new type of magic. This proves I wasn't just imagining stuff." Elena sent Lily opening the window shutters to let the dawn light in while she prepared breakfast. Elena took several vegetables out of the cabinet and proceeded chopping them with a knife. Some had familiar look to it, like some semi-potatoes and odd-colored carrots. The others were all a mystery. The idea of having such breakfast made Lid almost cry. In his past life, he never liked vegetables. They were all bland tasting. No matter how much of them he ate, within a half an hour, he would be hungry again. Elena showed everything inside a small copper cauldron and with the help of a hook hang it on a metal bar over the fire. Then with a finger snap, she conjured water out of nowhere, filling the cauldron. Both Lid and Eliza were ecstatic, even though for completely different reasons. For Lid, it meant hope. Spells could be casted without words or precise hand movements, and that showed him that there was a real chance for him to practice magic while still being baby. For Eliza was a reason of pride. Magic was common, but every time Elena casted a silent spell, it was like watching a real magician at work. "You are so amazing, Mom." Elisa's eyes were full of admiration. "Will I ever be as good as you with magic?" "Of course you will, silly bee," Elena replied with a kind smile, while inwardly adding, "after 10 plus years of chores every single day." After a while, everyone woke up to have breakfast together. The family consisted of Roz, father, Elena, two daughters, Eliza and Tista, and two sons, Orpel and Tryon. Lid could then establish with depressing certainty that there was no such thing as an indoor bathroom. From what he could see, the house consisted of a big room used as a dining room, kitchen, and three doors that led to the bedrooms. Nothing else. The breakfast was relatively quiet, so he had no problems learning the word for water magic when his father filled some jugs. Jorun. After everyone left their daily routine, Elena moved along with Lid to a rocking chair. During the morning, he had the pleasure to discover that in the New World, the daily chores like washing the dishes or cleaning the floors were all performed using magic. From her rocking chair, Elena would simply twirl her index and medium fingers while reciting Breza to generate up to 3 small whirlwinds that she would move all around the house to collect and get rid of the dust. Whenever someone would dirty the floor with earth or mud, a flick of the wrist and Magna would send them back through the same door where they brought it in. Lid was delighted discovering how common the use of magic was. Everyone in the family, even the youngest one, would use magic to make their life easier. When bedtime arrived, Lid was dying to try some magic. He had waited so long for his hands and feet to be finally free. Elena fell almost instantly asleep, yet Lid was impatient enough to be under the impression of having waited for hours. After a full day of thinking, he had decided to try only air magic first, until he was confident enough in his magic control abilities. Fire was just too dangerous for a novice, while water and light would easily wake up his mother. He could not spot any dirt to control in the dim light of the room, and was too afraid to mess up with darkness magic until he got a better understanding of it. So he twirled his little arm and said, "Yeah." Nothing happened. Lid tried and failed countless times before giving up. He did not know how long his baby body would have lasted until falling asleep, so he stopped despairing and started thinking. Magic was common. Whenever he heard for the first time an elemental magic word, something inside him would click, like creating a connection with the elemental energy. Those were all good news, but he still couldn't make head of tails why he was always falling. He never expected succeeding at the first try, but he had thought that something would have manifested. A random tiny gust of wind, a magic spark, anything would do. So he started thinking back to when the healer had filled him with power. That feeling was not new to him, but he never experienced it so intense. Let's search his memory until he found the answer. It was the same sensation that he had when he was started practicing Aikido while learning the basic breathing technique. Well, I have nothing to lose. Let's give it a try. Lid breathed into his diaphragm. The lower belly relaxed to get the world energy in. Then he would contract the lower belly, holding the breath for some seconds to let the energy settle in before breathing out, relaxing his whole body. Back on Earth, he always thought that the intoxicating feeling he experienced during his first days of practice was just some kind of placebo effect. His naive young mind deluded itself that we could miraculously become strong just by believing and practicing in all that key internal energy nonsense. But what if he later stopped experiencing that sensation only because his native world energy was just too thin? After some time, Lit started to feel a tingle around his body, and then the energy seemed to move and condense inside his solar plexus. The more he performed the breathing technique, more clearly he could sense the energy getting more stable. In his old video games, mana was always blue, so he visualized the blue sphere settling inside his plexus. After a while, Lit felt brimming with power. After holding his breath one last time, he twirled his little arm before commanding, "Yeah!" The wind generated barely tweaked his mother's hair, while he had aimed for the blanket. Yet, he could not stop grinding. "This is really a great start."